Hello class, and welcome to this Low G Man NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 as we dive right into the intro here. Beautiful sunsets, large cities, and then they came and ruined everything. And I always pictured the delivery, we'll send in Low G Man. We can't be bothered to do it, Low G Man will do anything. Up until a month ago, he was still doing my laundry. Anyway, I digress. Low G Man, the low gravity man from Taxan. Not too difficult, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to biting down on your controller. That honestly probably won't be necessary. This game isn't too bad. It's actually an underrated platforming gem if you ask me. Not a lot of people give this one a second look, but it's actually quite a bit of fun if you give it a chance. So we're going to walk you through it over the next half hour or so. By the way, I'm your instructor, Professor Briggins, by way of Let's Play with Briggins. But let's run the intro and get into this Low G Man NES walkthrough. Alright, let's begin a new game of Low G Man for the NES here as we take a look at the controls for Low G Man. Move with the D-pad, we can double tap to run in a certain direction, we can duck with down. We can pause and bring up the weapon wheel with start. To select our secondary weapon, we can switch between our gun and our secondary with select. We can attack with B. You can hold up or down while pressing B to use your spear. And then we jump with A. What makes this game fun is the ability to jump very high, you're the Low G Man, but also to freeze enemies with your gun and then kill them with the spear by spearing up or down. It's a very satisfying 1-2 combo, and then you got these vehicles as well that you can take by freezing them and then stabbing down. But we're already coming up on our first boss, so we're going to go to Gary a little bit earlier than usual today. Gary, who we got with the first boss?
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Alright, Low G Man has a lot of bosses. Let's start with 1-1. Destroy the crane with the mech if you still got it, or secondary weapons. And then sit above the driver to avoid, just to the left, to avoid most of the shots as you spear down.
Alright, thank you very much, Gary. As we take a look now as we finish this guy off at the Briggs notes for Low G Man. Very short list as you can see. First, get the good items early on. We'll bring in Blaze to talk about items in just a moment. And secondly, know your boss strategies, your boss beaters. That's what we got Gary for today for each of the 15 bosses in this game. Very boss-heavy game, actually. So let's go now and get an overview on the various items that we're picking up, because it's not especially obvious as to what each one does now with Blaze.
Alright, let's talk about some of the items you'll pick up in Low G Man. First, we have the red pickup, which is a spear upgrade. Gives you a longer, stronger spear. You have the blue one, which is a gun upgrade, so you can shoot in different directions. And just gives you a little bit of a wider shot with that. You have the wings, which is a jump upgrade. Very important for Low G Man. That you can cover a lot of high air. A lot of height, a lot of air, a lot of ground. It's good to be able to jump high in this game. You have the boring points, which come in 1,000 or 5,000. Then we have jars of health. We have the good one, which is blue. Pick up one of these, you'll get half a health point up. Pick up one of the red ones, and you'll actually go down a half a point. Something novel for this game. I don't hate it, just watch out. One boss has a bit of fun with this, so be on the lookout for that. Then you have the S, which is 10 seconds of invincibility, and then the extra life token. Extra life. Nothing too complicated there. Good luck.
Alright, thank you very much, Blaze, for the overview there. Get him to talk about the different weapons of this game in a little bit. Notice we can shoot these pods that are trapping, I guess, our allies with the gun. You think you need to spear them to break them out, but no, just a shot with the gun. And I suppose they're none the worse for wear. And they'll drop an item for us. In this case, higher jumping ability, but I think we're maybe already topped off with that. This is one of the longer levels, actually, 1-2. Some of these levels just go straight into a boss at the end of each chapter section, but in this case it's a bit of a longer trek. It's a good chance to pick up your spear upgrade early on, your gun upgrade, and your jump upgrades, and maybe even get a few weapons. And now we're coming up on the second boss, so let's go to Gary once again.
Boss beater. Alright, 1-2 boss. Jump over the bullets, freeze the boss, get about 5 spears in and retreat. Just keep repeating, you'll take him down.
Pretty simple. You'll notice as the boss gets weaker from the spears we do, it takes less shots to freeze them actually, so kind of a nice mechanic. So you know when it only takes 1 shot to freeze the boss, that you probably only need a handful more spears to take him down, like in this case. You enjoy that epic explosion. As epic as it gets on the NES. Alright, this level's all boss. Scary.
Boss beater. Alright, 1-3, boss. Destroy the turrets first, prioritize those, then spear the head, avoiding the bubbles, and then just drop to the left and reset if you need to clear the bubbles, but not too difficult. Take him down.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, you can see already the ability to jump much higher with the jumping upgrades, the anti-gravity power-ups in particular goes a long way, so very satisfying stabbing this particular boss in the head. I don't know what it is, just got kind of a Transformers look to him, but just, yeah, getting right in the center there. It's a small window, but, and then as Gary said, we can come down here and reset, clear the bubbles off the screen. And we just make the jump without even worrying about the platforms in this case. There you go. Simple as. We're 20% through the bosses. Lots of bosses in this game. Alright, let's go to Blaze now for an overview on the secondary weapons that we're picking up from select enemies. What do you got, Blaze?
Alright, let's talk about the items you will find in Low G Man. You can get these by killing the enemies which use these, kinda cool. For a change, a little something different, but we have the Fireball, which as you level this thing up by collecting more and more of these, you can fire out a bit wider, but not a bad power-up right now, not a bad weapon. You have the Bomb, which you drop on the ground, obviously. Not too bad. You got the Boomerang, which, as you'd expect, acts like a boomerang. And then my favorite weapon in this game, the Wave Beam, very powerful. Kind of a linear shot, goes above you as well when you have enough. But yeah, make sure you're on the lookout for these when you're killing the enemies. But yeah, there you go, the weapons, or the secondary weapons, I should say, of Low G Man.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Watch out for the icicles dropping there. We can take one of those little floating sky ships. Really not sure the technical term for it. They give you wings for a limited amount of time. You'll notice the more damage you take, the vehicle fuel meter drops. That's what that VEF meter is there. Currently it's 0 because we're not in a vehicle, but it normally just ticks down. You get about 30 seconds, I'd say, give or take, but that'll go down faster if you take damage. Because apparently the enemies hit the fuel line specifically, or their bullets siphon the fuel out. I don't know. I'm not going to think about it. Gary?
Boss beaters. Alright, 2-1 boss. Freeze them, make sure they're over land when you do it, and then jump up and spear them. Not too difficult.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yes. You'll notice even that one that they drop after they unfreeze, thaw, if you will, technical term. It does not do damage to us. Same can't be said for the ones they'll drop while they're floating left or right, but they give you, it's a gimme on that first one. So watch out for the water. It's not an instant death, thankfully. Game's very fair in that regard. Most of the quote-unquote pits, they just take away a block of health. That's what dropping in that water would do to us, so. You see it's getting closer to death. The more spears we put in, there we go. Nice. There's our hero action shot right there, spearing to the sky. Very satisfying 1-2 punch. I know I just said that earlier, but I hadn't picked this game up in a while before we started this class when I was getting my notes together and running it, getting familiar with it again, and yeah, I forgot. It's quite a bit of fun. I don't think this game gets its due. Good music too, actually. Not a bad soundtrack. This one actually sounds kind of familiar. It kind of sounds Let me see if I can pull this up. Alright, so rather than being any one specific track, it kind of sounds like a variety of Mega Man tracks to me. I'm hearing some Hard Man in there a little bit. Definitely some Capcom influences though, which is probably why I like the music so much in this game. But anyway, time for our next boss. Let's head back to Gary for this one.
Boss beaters. Right, 2-2 boss. Run side to side and avoid when the boss dips down, and then freeze the boss in the middle and jump through to land on and spear down on the boss. Not too difficult.
Alright, thank you very much, Gary. Another satisfying, very wide, chunky kind of boss. It's just, I don't know, something about freezing a snake tornado, a snake-nado, and just getting on and spearing down. Very satisfying. And if it's high enough, you're not going to take any damage, but yeah, this isn't too bad. We're just going to keep alternating back and forth. It's nice if you can get on top, rather than having to jump, unless they're right above you at ground height when you stab up. Maybe the color's more too when they're frozen. Yeah, very Mega Man. Can't not hear it now. There might be a Wily level mixed in there somewhere too. Especially that do 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 do. Can you hear that Mega Man do 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 do? Very similar there, but anyway, let's focus on not dying here. How many more spears this is gonna take? It's gotta be close. There we go. That is a nice shot right there. Very satisfying every time you take down one of these bosses. Right. 2-3, the submarine. The boss stage we need to fight our way through. Get more of those energy balls right there from that guy. Here's a new vehicle for us, the Spider, which does damage just by essentially being on top of an enemy. Just don't let them get on top of you, and you're just going to do damage by virtue of running into them. You want to take the high road here. Bottom row's a dead end. Another nice thing about having a vehicle is that you don't take any damage while you're in it. The vehicle absorbs all the damage by way of its fuel line unaccountably, but that's fine. I like the boss music in a lot of these too. As we are finally at the boss of 2-3, Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, 2-3. Run side to side to avoid the boss when he dips down with those projectiles, and then freeze him when he jumps, and just climb on and start spearing about 4 times if you do it fast enough before retreating and repeating.
Thanks, Gary. Looks a bit like the crustacean boss of Blaster Master, actually, or boss is. I guess we fight a couple versions of that. This is quite a bit more manageable, though. Check out that class, by the way. We did that here on the channel with a number of other fantastic classes on some fantastic classic gems. Some harder ones than this, but this is still a very good game worth playing, I would say. Nice. And look at that. Password is Fluff. Can't make this stuff up. So I'm going to take that as fate, and we're going to throw to Fluff now, our video game fact finder, and learn some fun facts about Low G Man. What do you got, Fluff?
The story of Low G Man has been told many times, but in the late 80s it was still relatively novel. The game takes place in 2284, as mankind has begun colonizing the galaxy thanks to the help of robots they created to help in the exploration. After an alien race captures one of the robot manufacturing planets and reprograms the robots to destroy humans Dr. Wily style, it's up to our main character to use his low-gravity backpack and spear to fight back for humanity. This is a solid game based on a solid game mechanic in the use of freezing enemies and using your spear to deal out damage.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Yes, the game is only as good as its central premise, whether you're using your bionic arm and bionic commando or feeding animals to get them to fall asleep so you can creepily inhabit their bodies in Little Nemo. But in this game, solid 1-2 punch right here, combo in the freeze and stab. Not that the freezing is necessary. And look how high we can jump now just by holding down that A button with all these jumping upgrades. Nothing else we really need at this point, but might as well save the folks if they're trapped as we're passing by. I always put this game together in my mind with Strider for some reason. It's got the blade, we've got the spear here. Very different games. It's just, you know how we tend to do that, just kind of lump certain games together in our minds. And you have to be very careful as we take down Optimus Prime to get that very valuable secondary weapon. You have to be careful with just standing over enemies after you take them down, because you never know when they might give you something you don't want, like a health down potion. Saving all the POWs, I suppose. People have been trapped by the POAs, prisoners of androids, or PORs, robots. Yeah, that was a novel concept for its time, before lots and lots of movies and video games dealt with that subject matter over and over again. I think here we actually want to jump up in that little corridor. And look, we finally got a invincibility. So we're gonna have to ditch the little spider here so we can get the jump. Doesn't have the same gravity-defying abilities that Low G Man has. Yeah, with that longer spear, you sometimes get that extra hit too, because it does that initial pierce, and then as it's coming back, it gets that second hit in, which you don't get with the shorter spears. So, very valuable upgrade in that regard. We get some more boomerangs. This game's just the right amount of length as well. You can beat it in about 40 minutes, I'd say. I think it's pretty good length, good pacing for an NES game. Not too short, not too long. Not sure where the POR was there. We're at the boss of 3-1, so let's go to Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, 3-1. Freeze the turrets. You can destroy them with the secondary weapons, if preferred. And then just freeze and get on the boss and start speedering down, you'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, a lot of these bosses, later it's just about removing the offensive capabilities of the enemies. We can also just freeze them and get more stabs in, but it's your prerogative whether or not, what kind of a bank of secondary weapons you have at this point. As we move on to the Magma Mountains of Chapter 3, Scene 2. Grab a ride right from the start here. Might as well just to soak up some of the damage that we don't feel like taking. I also like the shot pattern of the walker. Probably would have been a bit more interesting if the magma, the volcanoes were active, shooting out some lava, but that's alright. Here goes our fuel. So these secondary weapons, like the beam, it does a full block of damage to you, so be very careful around these guys. Make sure you freeze them before they get a chance to get a shot off on you. I generally like to take the upper route here, as you can see. We got some Optimus Prime heads right there. And we haven't really eaten into our secondary weapon supply yet. Haven't died yet, so we have a nice stockpile of all that for a little bit later, when it's more key for some of the bosses as Gary's gonna cover. Just a random, I guess that's some volcanic explosion right there. You can't see the source, but you just see a few falling, I guess, rocks of magma, I'm assuming. What I think it is, I haven't put it this way, I think just the controls are very tight here in Low G Man. Just where you want your Low G Man to go, he will go. Again, kind of going back to our intro where we comically suggested that he'll do anything you tell him, but yeah, he's very responsive, just like our friend Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, 3-2. Freeze the turrets and destroy with the secondary weapons, and then just stand to the left of center and jump and spear up as he's coming down. Just keep going at it. He'll retreat a little bit, but just keep on going. You'll take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, just stand a bit to the left there. You don't even have to move. You just keep stabbing. If you get impatient, you can jump. You just keep forcing him up. But yeah, he literally can't hit you if you stand right here, so. Good tactic. Another cool frozen victory screen right there. Let's go to 3-3 the Cliffs now. Good strategy here is to just stick to the left side of the screen and just keep jumping up if you have the maxed out jumping at this point in the game. Just be a little careful of the enemies that you're spawning, since they will interrupt your jump, but you can cover a lot of ground very quickly by making these huge jumps and just kind of sticking to the left, avoiding a lot of the hassle of dealing with these enemies head on. But we'll take it slow, conserve our health for the next boss, who lies in waiting at the top of this area. Interesting assortment of enemies. You got like some super bug robots, some dinosaur-looking pterodactyl robots. Doing quite well on these secondary weapons now. In very good shape in on that front. Take that little hover vehicle, spare ourselves some damage. It's the only reason to take it. Just got to keep tapping the A button there. I guess I'll take this one. It's just a little bit higher. Oh, alright, we went high enough that everything disappears and we're at the boss. Alright, what do you got, Gary?
Boss beater. Alright, 3-3. Freeze the turrets once again and destroy with the secondary weapons, and then dodge the projectiles, freeze the boss, and spear. About 4 spears should do it.
Alright, good call. Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward here when they're moving that slow. Dropping the odd rock, I guess, from the volcano, but no trouble there. Alright, Chapter 3, Scene 4. This one's all boss, so let's go back to Gary.
Boss beaters. Right, 3-4. Climb up to the left path to reach the boss first off, and then freeze the boss when you're on the right side. About 14 spears will do it. This is really just a street fight, maybe the toughest boss in the game. Just get in there, just start spearing, freezing and spearing over and over again. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Gary. There's actually a way that you can skip this guy. We're gonna have Fluff talk about that a little bit later, but meantime, just looks like we're on the back of a garbage truck. That guy's not too difficult. We go into Chapter 4, Scene 1. There are 5 chapters, in case you're wondering. Hearing a little kind of Double Dragon 2 and 3 music in there, too. But we're talking a bit about this game. Let's find out more about the people who are behind the game with Fluff. Fluff, what do you got?
Low G Man was published in North America by short-lived Nintendo developer Taxan, who were also the publishers of other interesting, quality, but admittedly more challenging games like Eight Eyes and Magician. 2 games we've done classes on here on Video Games 101, which you can check out via the playlist in the description. The developers here on Low G Man were KID, or Kindle Imagine Develop, the company behind other NES titles like G.I. Joe and the lamely named Isolated Warrior. This game's lead designer was Ken Lobb, who would later go on to be one of the co-creators of the Killer Instinct series. As I mentioned in our class on GoldenEye 007, objectively the most useless gun in the game, the Clob, was named after Ken Lobb after Nintendo insisted they change the real names of all the guns in the game in order to downplay the connection between real firearms manufacturers and the game.
I always called that the staple gun myself, but yeah, I have to say one of my favorite things about these classes is learning which developers were behind the games and had connections to others. It's a fun little trail. By the way, you can check out our class on GoldenEye 007, which we did, via the playlist in the description. Every class we've ever done is right there in that playlist. Should be very well stocked on pretty much all of the secondary weapons at this point, if Gary wants us to pull one out in particular on any of these bosses. But speaking of these bosses, we got the next one, Gary.
Boss beaters. All right, 4-1. Stay on the left or right side of the screen to avoid the projectiles, and then just freeze the boss and spear him when he's low enough. Nothing too taxing.
All right, thank you, Gary. Yeah, I guess, is that like a robot meets tree or something? That reminds me of something you'd see in like a kid's play area or something. Something artsy in a nice town. A nice city where they have the budget for it. Like a fancy playground where they commission a fancy artist to do some of the... What am I talking about? Let's just kill this guy. Kind of reminds me of one of those little, those pink rubber guys. Here, this is what I'm talking about. Does anyone remember these guys? This alien kind of reminds me of these. Yeah, you get them in like a little egg or something. Get them from those little coin machines. But anyway, look at that spear length right there. Looking good, Low G Man, looking good. Just a few more scenes to go. The industrial zone now. Having those jump upgrades really pays here. As you can see, we just bypassed large chunks of this level. Don't have to worry about specific platforming, lining things up, being careful. Things no Low G Man wants to be. Even the bubbles are coming after us now. Good stuff, though. We just missed, but you're maxed out on health. At this point, I think we have enough secondary weapons. Just trying to run through this as quickly as possible to get to the last few bosses here. And I think we're coming up on the 4-2 boss, Gary.
Boss beater. Right, 4-2. Run to slip between the power down potions. Do not pick up these power down potions, remember. And then get the shots off when the boss is on the sides. About 13 spears will do it.
I like that. That's a that's a twist right there. Boss throwing, instead of doing normal damage, I mean, sure, he's still shooting out the corners, but just throwing poison potions at you, essentially. I guess he bought them in bulk. Doesn't know what else to do with them. I'm just getting some nice deep stabs right now with the spear, all upgraded. It's nice if you can kind of get him frozen as he's dropping down, so you can get more hits in without having to worry about jumping, but we'll take what we can get. And he's down. The Mothership, Chapter 4, Scene 3. This is essentially a boss, but just a short little way to go before we get to him. Mind the ball chains that they throw at you. And who we got this time, Gary?
Boss beaters. Alright, 4-3. Use the wave to clear out the bottom 3 and the upper turrets, and then just freeze and spear. He's pretty much neutered at this point. Stay on the rightmost side will keep you safe from most of the damage for whatever reason, as you can see right here, but not too difficult once you get those turrets out of the way.
Alright. Yeah, no problems now. Of course, we don't have more of those. I guess we just haven't picked up many of that variety. What else have we got? Let's just go through some of this stuff we're not going to use, since we're coming down the stretch here. Everything must go. Bargain sale. Yeah, you can't really hit us much in this corner here. A lot of freebies. Probably because he's stunned with all the damage we're doing. Probably be more efficient just to use the spear, but whatever. Whatever it takes to get there. Getting close. MP45, 5-1. And they just drop you down. Just have to guess where these projectile enemies are going to be. And then once we touch down, it's boss time. Gary.
Boss beater. 5-1. Focus on freezing and spearing the isolated clones on one side or the other. You'll take them down, every single last one of them eventually. Good luck.
Got a whole bunch of those little pink rubber muscle alien guy. I'm not sure what they were called, actually. We put the picture up. I don't know specifically what they're called. And there was one. Just getting those 4 hits in, then retreating. Only takes 3 shots to freeze him now. He should be pretty close. Still taking 3. Nice when you know it's that last shot to freeze him so you can line your jump up accordingly. Just a couple now. I think I was a little off center that time. And not difficult, just, you know, lots of hits. Alright, and he should be ready to go. Just 1 shot to freeze. This should do it. There it is. Nice. Alright, we're moving on to the final level now, 5-2. The final encounter. And while we work our way through this level, left to right, I referenced the hidden stages earlier. Let's go to Fluff to get some insight as to how to reach those levels and what the point of them is. What do you got for us, Fluff?
There are 2 secret levels in this game, which are accessed by special orbs which are seriously hidden away. The first is on Chapter 1, Scene 2, where you need to do a super jump using the walker right at this spot where you see the first walker. To do this, do a normal jump in this spot, hit down when you land, then jump again to do a massive jump to the top of this level and proceed through to the secret area. The next is Chapter 3, Scene 3, above the boss. You can fly there, or just jump if you have enough jump upgrades, then fly, or jump, and walk through the wall in this spot to the right. Both secret areas simply exist to allow you to stock up on supplies from the enemies, not to mention skip the boss of the level you just left.
Alright, thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, you get to skip a couple bosses, at least in the case of 3-3. Because you get to skip the 3-3 boss as well as the 3-4 one. Not that they're that difficult. And then you wouldn't get to use Gary's expert tips, so. Speaking of the flying machine, this is clutch for Gary's strategy here at the end. This isn't specifically the one that we need. This one runs out of juice a little bit early. There's the final one before we get to the last boss is the one we're going to want to commandeer right here. So I'm going to bail out of this one. Freeze this as far to the right as we can so we can maximize our gas mileage. And most importantly, try to avoid taking any damage so you can keep your fuel as high as possible. I like to fly low here. Make sure you have those bombs going. But final boss, Gary, take us home.
Boss beater. Right, the final boss, finally, of Low G Man. Use the hover vehicle to circle the boss. Just keep circling and take out the bottom targets. Want to keep as much fuel as you can, so avoid that damage. And then shoot the secondary weapons at the clouds. and then jump to clear the bubbles, so just get them off the screen, and they'll be gone. And then just stand to the left of the center, and spear up, and just like that, you have beaten Low G Man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Gary. Excellent work today. We worked him a little bit harder than normal with 15 bosses in this game. It's really more about the bosses in this game. There's a decent amount of variety. We can scroll off those bubbles like Gary recommended. Just start firing at the things that are producing them, and then repeat to clear them. Excellent tip. Yeah, it's a handful of bosses, and then in between you have a little bit of platforming and leveling in between. I guess there's platforming involved with the bosses as well, literally right now, but then might as well just go through whatever you have at this point, whatever weapons you have stocked up. And yeah, now that it's neutered, we can just go ahead and spear up. Kind of anticlimactic after everything we've fought through in this game. The only real adversity now is the challenge is to make sure we don't jump too high. And we can stand just a little bit off to the side. Similar to a boss we had earlier. This is where the spear upgrade really helps out. Just got to get the right placement there on the left or right. And just repeat until they are down. You can see how this would be a little more hectic if you had the bubbles coming at you. They're projectiles, but as it is, there it is. Success! That same expression from earlier. It was a hard-won fight. And even does the Mega Man walk back. Like Mega Man 2. As we pass all of the bosses that we felled. Some of the levels. But with patience. I think this is where they challenge us to fight through the game again. The galaxy is now safe. For now. Oh, careful. He's about to impale himself. I remember that guy. That was a good fight. As you walk along, you realize they're not paying you for any of this. You're just doing what you're told. It's got a nice strut, though. Know that all the effort, very Travolta, Saturday Night Fever, he's earned it. 5 chapters and 15 bosses. Yes, it was well worth it. I hope you thought so, by the way. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in this class. We do one of these classes every single week. We'd love to have you enrolled. Leave a comment if you're familiar with this game, or maybe you want to give it a look now if you neglected this one when you were younger, or just never got around to it. Maybe you never beat it. Hopefully these tips help you out. Leave a like as well. If you don't mind, it really does help us out. And peace rules all. Have you seen this? I think Fluff showed us that. Is that the train? Or whatever it is. Just, yeah, a couple more even this. I love that. Like the teaser. Did we see that? No, I don't remember seeing it. No, yeah, I guess we did see that, yeah. It was kind of like a crustacean fish mashup. I wouldn't really call them, well, yes, they are hidden. I wouldn't call them levels. It's an interesting ending, though. They're challenging you and teasing you. I don't think anything changes if you do go through those levels en route to beating this game. But yeah, there's not really much point to going through those. But yeah, if you want to get some extra power-ups like Fluff said, find them if you can. That's how they encouraged replayability back in 1990 or whatever year. Yes, yeah, that's why we have Fluff. Thank you very much. And the hover thing is in 3.3, now that I can mention that. That's weird. battle is over. It really... I guess this constitutes an ending. Just having him walk over it was fun. And there's the spear, waiting to violently stab someone from above. You're not done yet. Yeah, they really draw this out. I forgot about this. This game has just begun, Cal. Those my initials, apparently? Did I put those in at some point? That pose. That's unnecessary. What's he trying to achieve there? I don't know, but that's our time this week. Thank you so much for attending this class. And thanks to all my TAs. And yeah, you can just play it over again after that. Everything's a little bit more difficult, but go to that if it interests you. Again, I mean, it wasn't that hard the first time, so a bit more of a challenge wouldn't be the worst thing. But we'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.